Since we already know about real numbers, it's now time to understand about square roots. This is a topic which many students find it very difficult to understand. Now, let's start. Consider any number. Say for example we have 4. 4 when squared gives us 16. And the square root of 16 gives us 4. Well, that's the concept. This is how we represent the square of 4. 4 raised to 2. 2 is called the power, and 4 is the base. Now, how do we represent the square root of 4? Well, this is how we write it. This symbol is called the radical, or the square root. And the number inside the radical or the square root is called the radicand or the base. That's the first thing we learn, how to represent a square root. But here's a simple way to remember. We know that 5 raised to 2 is 25. This is 2 when transposed to the other side becomes a square root. So we can say that the square root of 25 is 5. Now, let's look at something really interesting about square roots. So what's the square root of 16? Yes, it's 4. This means that the square of 4 will give the number in the radical. Similarly, the square root of 256 is 16. If we square 16, we will get 256. How about this example? What is the square root of 55? Now we know that 55 is not a perfect square, which means that the answer will not be an integer. In many exams, we are not allowed to use a calculator. What's the solution then? The best way to go about it is approximation. All we need to do is to think of two perfect squares. 55 lies in between. By the way, what are square numbers? When a number has been multiplied by itself, we say that the answer is a square number. So on the right of this picture, you have it there, square numbers from 1 to 12. Now going back with the example, 55 lies in between 49, which is 7 square, and 64, which is 8 square. That gives us a big hint. Square of 55 lies between square root of 49 and square root of 64. It lies between 7 and 8. But that's not enough. What do we do now? Maybe we can find out how far 55 is from 49 relative to how far 64 is from 49. To know how far 64 is from 49, we find the difference between 64 and 49. That equals to 15. And to know how far 55 is from 49, we find the difference between 55 and 49. That is 6. Now, 6 over 15 will tell us how far the answer is from 7. 6 divided by 15 is 2 over 5, which is 0.4. So square root of 55 will approximately equal to 7.4. Now, let's try to summarize what we did in order to get 7.4 as an approximation. First, we found out the perfect squares 55 lies between. Then, we found how far 55 is from 49 relative to how far 64 is from 49. Now, if you will try to check it in a calculator, you will get the value as 7.416, which is very close to 7.4.